Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Backstick Podcast. I'm Jimmy Roberts, and I'm joined here as usual by my co-host Dom Okus. Domo, how are you, mate?
Yeah, good, bro. Feeling good. Obviously, I'm representing West Ham right now. We've got a new manager. So happy about that. And of course, happy to talk to our guest that we have here today.
Yeah, mate, and it's a pleasure for me to introduce a former rival in college of mine, but a good friend that's come out of it. So, Mr. Kalil El Medkhar, how are you, mate?
Good, man. Good to talk to you guys.
Yeah, mate,
Appreciate it,
it's a,
bro.
a pleasure to have you here, man. And as I mentioned, obviously we were sort of rivals, you could say, in college. And obviously, I'm sporting, for those watching on the YouTube, I'm sporting the Marshall gear today. Khalil's a former Kentucky Wildcat, so yeah, it's a pleasure to have you on. Dom, just want to double click into what you said there. So obviously, how are you feeling about the new manager down at West Ham?
Yeah, good. Obviously, we got rid of Lopetegui, who I think they're saying is the shortest serving manager in West Ham history. So a bit of a shocking stat for him to have. But I'm optimistic, man. I'm optimistic. I think Graham Potter, he didn't do too great at Chelsea, but I think with all that was going on at the club there and all the signings they were kind of make, I like his philosophy. I think we'll give him time. He's quite charismatic, so I'm excited. I think David Moyes has done a bit of a disservice to the fan base, and our expectations now are super high. Talking to my best mate, and he said our expectation should be to be in Europe as a West Ham fan. So I was like, okay, so being in Europe means in the top seven. And I was like, so he thinks it should be Arsenal, Chelsea, Man City, Liverpool, Spurs, and whoever else, and then us. And I'm like, as a West Ham fan, I think it's the expectation should be top off. Anything above that is like exceeding expectations, I think. So long drawn out from me, but yeah, I'm happy, and I'm looking forward to kind of what we can do for the rest of the season.
Yeah, love that, love that. And Khalil, who do you support?
Honestly, dude, it's crazy. I really don't even watch that much soccer, but I would say
Really?
Liverpool, honestly.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
okay.
would say Liverpool.
Well, yeah, okay. That's disappointing because I'm a United fan. Um, and as we speak, it's just come through on my phone that at the time of this recording that Bruno Fernandes has just put us up 1-0 against Arsenal. So I am buzzing right now.
In the FA Cup.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
But anyway, enough about all that. So, Khalil, obviously, you've like I said, mentioned before, you're a college standout down at UK, and then your career's taking you to Dallas, it's taking you to Loudoun, and now it takes you to Tulsa. So, you're Tulsa's first signing of the off season. Just talk to us about that and your kind of expectations. I know you said that you've just moved in, you're getting settled. So, obviously you were the first signing of the off season. So what does that bring a sense of expectation for you? Or do you think that that's just something that a vote of confidence from the club that they put faith in you from the beginning?
Yeah, I mean, I was honestly talking to Tulsa even from last year, and it was something that really interested me. It seems like they're going through a little bit of a rebuild, but I kind of look at it almost like Kentucky, where it's a program that hasn't really, done the best in the last, 4 or 5 years. But I can just tell from like the staff and stuff like that, they're really hungry for it and stuff like that. And yeah, it's obviously a vote of confidence to be the first signing of the off season. If there's any expectations put on me, they're put on by myself, to be honest. I don't think
Yeah, I
anyone's
love
going to
that.
put any expectations than I'm going to put on myself. So no, I'm really excited for it. I think it's going to be a good challenge and also a really good opportunity.
Yeah, mate. And to be fair, like I've known a couple of the boys that have played for Tulsa in the past, and they kind of echo what you said there. Like the club is going through a bit of a rebuild. They're sort of trying to find the right formula. So I think signing players of the caliber of yourself is definitely the way forward. I think it also kind of speaks to the kind of flowing landscape of the USL in general. Like, squads can change so quickly from one year to the next in the USL. Has there been a big turnover?
Yeah. Yeah. There's been a big turnover with Tulsa. And I mean, you just look at a team like Rhode Island, where it was their first year and they were able to did they get to the final or the
Yeah,
semifinal?
yeah, yeah.
I don't know, but to do that in your first year, that just shows you, you get one good good squad together, and everything could change. So I mean, that's what we're hoping this year.
Yeah, and you mentioned Rhode Island there. You know, another team to mention is Las Vegas, because they were tipped pre-season to be way down the bottom of the league and really struggle, and they had a really good run. So yeah, you're right. I mean, if you can get the right blend of obviously good people and good players in the USL, you can definitely go far. I think, Dom, we've touched on it before with Scouts. If you haven't watched that one with Jordan Skelton, you can catch the episode below. But we've touched on it before, how sometimes in the USL you can have the most talented squad, but that doesn't get you over the line. I think, you know, certainly when it comes to salaries and whatnot, they're not life-changing. They're not, you know, going to set you up for post-soccer. So I think a lot of it comes down to getting the right people involved and in the door, but also just lads that want it, lads that want to win. So, you know, I think hopefully with the kind of the rebuild down at Tulsa, you know, you're looking in that direction. You've just come from Loudoun, and I want to touch on that quickly. So obviously that was a little, were you involved with the club when they still had the direct affiliate with DC United, or was that post that?
They were like transitioning away from it. To be honest, I don't even know what the relationship with DC is. It was kind of unclear. I mean, because to be honest, like when I signed, you know, that relationship was still kind of there, or I was told that it was still kind of there. And that was honestly part of the reason why I signed was, oh, you know, you'll get opportunities with the first team. That turned out, you know, not to be the case. So they're figuring things out. I mean, what I would say about Loudoun is, you know, they have a new owner, new GM who are, they are very hungry. They're willing to, you know, invest money, you know, fix the facilities and stuff like that. So I think they're headed in a good direction. I think the direction they should be heading is away from DC, to be honest. But it was definitely interesting, you know, seeing the dynamic between the two clubs. You know, we're going into the DC facility to do a workout that's on the schedule, and then they're kicking us out saying, no, we got to use this right now. So,
No.
no, bench press, and they're telling me to get out.
How do you reflect on time like living in the DMV area? I also used to live in that area when I graduated from college. I lived in Arlington, Virginia, and I really liked the area. I think it was cool, nightlife, like good food and all that stuff. So how did you like kind of living in that area?
Oh man, I loved it. We were in Reston, Virginia, so it's a little bit out. But oh my god, it's such a nice area, and we were like right by the metro, so we were able to take the metro into DC. It was like 30 minutes, but I mean, just so expensive. It's crazy.
It is expensive. It's expensive.
It's not like Lexington, Kentucky, or Huntington, West Virginia.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, yeah, just kind of clicking back into Tulsa there. I know we just briefly touched on Loudoun, but obviously I've got a little quote here just from the press release, obviously saying that the new gaffer mentioned that your versatility was a key asset. But for me, and I think you'll agree, you're best when you're kind of given a bit of freedom and you're able to drift in off that left side on your right, on the right peg. So is that where you see yourself making the biggest impact, or are you going to potentially be given a different role within this Tulsa system?
It's honestly interesting. I mean, over the last year, you know, with Loudoun, I really didn't play winger much. I was really like a 10 most of the year. I mean, I still would say my best position is, you know, left wing, like you said, cutting in, just like yours is on the right. But I mean, I'm honestly ready to play, you know, wherever they put me, if it's attacking mid or left wing. I mean, I think, you know, their plans for me are on that left wing, but you know, if anything, I think over the last year, it's taught me to play a different style, you know, and if I can incorporate that into left wing, you know, that'd be great.
Yeah, and just to give any of the listeners that aren't familiar, and obviously Dom, Kalil is one of the most techie players when he's dribbling that I've ever seen. When it comes to anyone that I come up against in college, I've seen him violate so many right backs in his time. He's one of them, yeah, where like, I don't mean to sort of blow too much smoke up his arse, but when he's dribbling, like it's like the balls, like he beats people just by like little body feint. One of them ones, like he dribbles at pace, and then it's just that one there, and like just sends the defender. Like he's a proper silky player.
That's so funny. Like whenever I say like, or whenever someone asks me like who's some of the best dribblers I've seen, I would say you and Milo. I remember the game 2019 when we played you guys. Oh my God, you guys destroyed our outside. I just want that.
Amazing.
To be fair, we had some ballers.
Jam, if you were gonna describe a player that Kalil plays like, what would you say? Because what you're describing, I'm getting like Coutinho vibes. But who would be a player that you say plays like?
Oh, that's a tough one because he's not like Kalil's not little, you know. He's not like a little Coutinho, smaller type number 10. He's a big lad as well. It's a tough one to answer on the surface. Because when you think about jinky wingers, like ones like Jeremy Doku come to mind and stuff like that, but he's not that sort of like dead still, shift it and move. Do you know what I mean? Like if he's given a bit of pace, he'll jink his way through. I'm sure maybe someone will come to me, but off the top of my head, I can't think right now. Maybe when you're talking about someone who's, you know, ball real close to his feet, good in tight spaces, maybe like a Martial or like a Madueke.
Okay. I'm starting to get the picture. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a guy on Liverpool.
Oh, Gakpo.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I think. Do you know what? I think that's a good comparison because he's a bit longer than most as well, and especially coming in off the left. Yeah, I can see that. You alluded to just then, obviously, the times when you and I played against each other in college, and obviously the sort of the baton pass back and forth between Kentucky and Marshall during our time. Obviously, I want to just touch in to 2018 when you guys had, for me, the best team I ever played against in college. The team that had you, that had JJ, Tanner, Amema Bika, I forget the goalkeeper's name, but that was Dom. This team was serious. Like, it was a seriously good team. So just talk to me a little bit about that side. And obviously I've just listed off a few players there, but just what made that team special, because obviously you went on a bit of a run, but you know, for me, like I said, it was the best team that I played against in college.
Yeah, dude, that was, oh my God, that was like the best. Like, that was the most fun I've ever had playing soccer. I mean, going like and it's crazy because like most of those guys were there our 2017 year, and we were not good 2017, and it really started the spring of 2018. We had 11 players, or no, we had 10 players on the team, and
What?
we had to like just pull guys off campus to train with us and like play in our spring games and stuff. So I think that's really where, you know, everything started. But I don't think any of us really had any idea how good we were going to be in that 2018. But it really did start in that spring of 2017, where everyone just got so close with each other, and we just grew so much as like players and just as people off the field too.
Sam, that alludes to what you were talking about earlier, right? Where it's not so much exactly about how good the players are. I'm sure they were all really talented, but it's like that camaraderie. You really get together. You have a bond. You enjoy going out together. You might be playing cards together in your spare time. And when you have that strong bond, it shows on the pitch, right? It's probably, Jam, it's the same for you at Marshall, right? It's like if you were to pick each individual, were they the best player in their position in the country? Maybe, maybe not. But the fact that you could come together as a team and galvanize then shows on the pitch, you know?
Yeah, 100%. You're right. And I think one of the biggest things that you talk about there is like, were those players necessarily the best in their position in the country? I think, you know, everyone can draw comparisons, blah, blah, blah. But I think one player at the time for me who was the best player in the country in his position was JJ. And I'm sure he's probably one of the best players that you've played with when we get onto it later on. However, JJ was a real difference maker, and obviously you two linked up like crazy that year. I think, I remember we would play the game, we'd win, and then we'd look and it'd be like Kentucky 3-0, JJ 2 goals, Kalil 2 assists or something like that. Like it was crazy. So what was that like, obviously playing with a player of that caliber, and obviously, his style of play? I think you two matched up well with him being a big physical number 9. So just talk to me about that little relationship on the pitch.
And it was so easy playing with him. I mean, just having that big of a dude up there, and you can just like give him a terrible ball, and then he'll deal with it, and then you can play off of him. Yeah, honestly, and like that, like again, that started that 2017 or that 2018 spring. We were just working on our, working with each other, figuring out exactly what he wants, what I want, how to get the ball to him. And honestly, every single time I got the ball, I'm like, all right, where the hell is JJ? Let me get it to him. Let me get him in the best best chance I can give him. And yeah, I love playing with that guy. Hopefully one day, we can join forces again and play. But also, a May Mabika too. Having that dude behind you, you're not too worried about ball. So I mean, I was never, thinking, all right, like let me keep possession, not worry about losing the ball. Especially, when you have a guy like that behind you, it like, you can have a lot of creativity and, not be afraid to lose the ball. And it's funny because in 2017, me, JJ, and Ame used to call each other the 25th minute squad, because none of us started our freshman year, or for them it was their redshirt freshman year, and we would always sub in 25th minute, like right on the dot. So we just call each other that.
Oh, that's quality. That's quality. Dom, just to give you a little bit of context, he's mentioned, obviously, I brought in JJ just then, big lad. When you talk about big lads, Ame Mabika is... How tall is he? 6'6"? 6'7"?
And yeah, and it's so funny, like traveling with him. We're wearing the Kentucky gear. We're going through the airport. Obviously, everyone is just like, they see a massive guy like that. They're like, oh my God, he's on the Kentucky basketball team. They're like, oh my God, like, can we take pictures? Can we take pictures? And then he would just get so...
That's so funny. That's so funny. But yeah, no, and the thing about Ame as well is what always surprised me was he's a big lad, but he's very good with the ball at his feet as well.
And he's so fast too. I mean, it's impossible. You think you have him beat, and then he just reaches his massive leg and tackles the hell out of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, both of you know that obviously I like to, when I'm playing, I like to sort of get to the byline or cut in and cross a ball. And I just remember playing against Kentucky, I always knew I had to put a little bit more on it, because you've got this tree planted in the middle of the 6-yard box that was just heading everything away.
Long, so long.
Oh God, right. Yeah, and then just kind of like sticking just last thing to the Marshall side. Obviously, I've talked about a couple of players, but we were talking before, just off camera just now, and we were talking about kind of what the rivalry has become between Marshall and Kentucky, right? Like since we left. And I think you and I can confidently say that it's always been a friendly rivalry, right? Like it's a rivalry built on competition. There's never been any bad blood between the two teams or anything. And I think it was born out of respect, sort of thing. But, I talked earlier on, but off camera, just about how when I went back and I actually watched Marshall versus Kentucky back in November, and just to see what, the legacy that sort of Kalil and myself left behind on those two programs, and how there was thousands of fans at the game. It was packed out. Like for me, like that was a proud moment, and like just to see like what we did to those programs and the rivalry in general.
I think that's what you want, when you leave a program, is to, see it flourish after you leave, and then you can see the impression you left on it. I mean, I think when our freshman year, our sophomore year, that's when it like really started, because we were really good. I call it like the I-64 rivalry. I think that's the highway they're both on, and I mean, it was more we were close in distance, but now it's just like these are some of the top teams in the country. So like that's where the rivalry is stemming from. And yeah, 2018, 2019, you guys got us in 2019. Oh my God. Your team was nasty with like Vitor and Pedro and Paulo and Ned and Milo, obviously. That was a great team. So, and Abdul and center back. So.
Yeah, and I know, Dom, you obviously know of Ilau as well, another top player that we had that Kalil just mentioned. I reckon he'd be a funny one to have on the pod,
Hilarious. We got to. Bro. He's one of a kind. I've never met anyone like him. Never.
Hilarious.
Yeah. One of the nicest dudes. One of the scariest blokes you ever come across. But at heart, genuinely, soon as you come off the pitch, one of the nicest blokes you'll ever come across in football.
100%. And also had 0% body fat.
Oh my God. Ridiculous.
Like, I remember when I met him, and I was like, he must have been sophomore year college, again, playing in that USL team in West Virginia. And we're just like messing about, we've got a top shop. I'm like, who is this personal trainer that's playing with us? Like, absolutely chiseled and a baller. Yeah, man.
Oh, mate. Yeah. And you know he's getting bigger as well. I spoke to him about in the off season, and he's been smashing gym. And I told him, I was like, mate, you're gonna get too heavy. Like, get out the gym now.
Mate, that's funny.
Oh God, no, that's funny, man. And just to kind of round off, kind of the college sort of stuff for you, mate. I actually, to be fair, I don't know how to word it other than to say, like, I think I actually owe you a thank you, because for me, coming in as a left winger into obviously a new country and this and that, for me, when I saw you play in 2017 and 2018, and obviously you sort of exploded a little bit in 2018, for me, you were the benchmark. I saw like the numbers you were putting up, the attention you were garnering and that. For me, like, I thought, that's the level I've got to get to. If I've got any chance of playing at the next level, I sort of looked at yourself, I saw the numbers you were putting up, and that definitely, for me, spurred me on in 2019 to go and put up the numbers that I did, that ultimately got me drafted. So I don't know how else to say it other than saying thank you for balling out.
Yeah, I mean, I did the same kind of thing. I think like it's good to, I mean, obviously you don't want to overly compare yourself to other players, but you should have a benchmark of what you're trying to achieve, and in a little bit of a sense, compare yourself to some players, especially for a position like winger, where I mean goals and assists is what's going to get you paid. So I mean, I definitely do that as well. Some players in the USL, I'm not going to name them, but there's definitely some players where I'm like, all right, I got a goal and assist today. What'd they get? Okay, they didn't get it.
Yeah, and that's just, to be fair, mate, that's just football, isn't it? Like, whether you're doing it yourself or you're watching your team. Dom, I know, like, at the minute you've probably got, you even do it for the team you support. So, like, you'll be looking, say, I don't know, Bowen putting up numbers, and you'll maybe look and see, like, I don't know, Mbuemo scored again today, and you're thinking, fucking hell, like, it's funny, like, whether it's yourself or for your team, is that competition's all over, innit?
100%. No, 100%.
All right. Well, I guess that's a good time for us to move on, and I want to just touch into your experience down at FC Dallas as well. Obviously, you signed there straight out of Kentucky, 2-year deal. So I remember actually when I think you told me, I messaged you asking like what you were doing and this and that, and I remember you told me that about 2 days before it was announced that you were going down there. And I was really confused because obviously the draft was coming up and you signed outside the draft. So what was that process like? Was that something to do with the homegrown rights that you had with Philadelphia Union? Just talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, believe me, I was just as, I mean, we went to the combine, and I was like preparing for the draft. Oh, dude, it's such a nerve-wracking process. Just like, sitting around for weeks, just like, all right, it's just quiet because I mean, draft is coming up, And then I get a call one morning from my agent. He's just like, "Hey, like, you're gonna sign with Dallas." I was like, "What? Like, how is that possible? Like, oh, like, are they gonna draft me?" He's like, "No, they traded your homegrown rights from the Union, so you're gonna sign there." So I signed as a homegrown for Dallas, even though I never stepped foot in the academy there. So it's like such an interesting kind of process. I mean, it has its like benefits and its flaws. I mean, it worked out for me, where I went to college for 4 years, but the Union still owned my homegrown rights. Um, and I mean, it could kind of screw players over in some ways, but it worked out well for me. Signing with Dallas before the draft, and then going into preseason having a contract, which a lot of guys that get drafted, don't have that luxury.
Question I have, and maybe this is a bit of my ignorance, but you say so Union have your homegrown rights because you come through the academy there, but you're about to get drafted. So if you would have got drafted by make up a team, LA Galaxy, would they have had to pay Philadelphia Union for your rights too? Like, how does that all come together?
So it's like as soon as the draft starts, like your homegrown rights like go out the window.
Got it.
It's weird. So I mean, yeah, I think it was like a week before the draft. So the Union only had my rights for one more week. So and then $1,000 off of me. So good business by them.
Okay, cool. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's such a weird process. Like, obviously, I was involved in the Sporting Kansas City organization as well, and it's such a weird process in terms of like even the way that MLS contracts are structured, right? Like, you've got like the supplemental, the senior roster spots, the GAs. It's so different from everywhere else in the world. And what I always find, obviously, it's the MLS, right? They want the big stars to obviously get the interest and people watching it. But I do think it's a little bit out of order how you can have lads on, say, senior roster spots. So like lads that are maybe in the 18 every week or even playing every week that could be on $100,000 a year. But then you've got someone on a not a GA, what's it called? A designated player contract who could be on millions. And that's just the way that the contracts are split up. It's such a weird dynamic, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, I was talking to some guys in the off season that I was training with, and they're in a position where they're on like the supplemental roster, making senior minimum or reserve minimum, and they're outperforming guys that are making 5-6 times as much as them, but the team doesn't want to move them from the supplemental roster to the senior roster, so they're just keeping them on the same contract. So it's almost like you have to perform double as well to get from the supplemental to the senior roster and make more money, when some of these guys that are already on the senior roster, if they're just playing decent, they'll just keep getting more and more contracts, more and more money. So it's yeah, I don't know, MLS needs to make some changes.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean that just the MLS in general, like, it wants to be this top 5, maybe break into that league in the world, but until they, like, for me anyway, I think until they move away from things like the draft, until they move away from things like salary caps and tiered contracts, they never will, because it's so confusing. And at the end of the day, it just plays into this model of, we're going to fill a squad of 22, 23 players that are decent, and then we're just going to get 2 superstars and try play through them. Like, right. How's any manager meant to plan for a year or 2 or 3 years ahead when the owner could ring up, let's just take FC Dallas, for example, the owner or the GM, FC Dallas, could ring up the gaffer and go, hey, I don't know, Gabriel Jesus is going to be there on Monday. And you're like, well, I have to play him. But how does that fit into any plans?
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, how many deep, don't produce, what the clubs are expecting them to. I mean, they're getting paid millions of dollars, and the clubs are kind of like, all right, here, figure it out, go. Like,
yeah,
score goals for us.
Who are the designated players at Dallas?
It was Franco Jara, Jesus Ferreira was one my second year. Alan Velasco. Oof, I don't remember really. But I mean, yeah, I mean, I love those guys. So, you know,
Yeah, yeah, of course. Is Jesus Ferreira? He? That's the striker, right?
yeah, he just got traded to Seattle.
I was gonna ask because wasn't there a lot of talk about him getting a move to Europe at one point as well?
Yeah, it was going to be to I forget what the team is in Russia, but you know, obviously with all the sanctions and everything going on there, I think the MLS blocked it. So, I mean, I think it was a good time for him to make a move. I mean, amazing player, so good. So, I think he'll do really well in Seattle, though.
So just
Yes.
quickly taking a step back, talking about going. So obviously, I think we kind of skipped over a little bit of you actually getting to Dallas after the draft. So they buy your homegrown rights, and then you agents told you, right, you're going to Dallas. So just tell us a little bit about, that process of, maybe speaking to the coach and you moving down there, and how you kind of integrate into the team.
Yeah, I was like more nervous than I should have been. I still remember the first day we had like team physicals, and it was like just for players, and obviously I'm a signed player, you know, and there was a lot of like draft picks and stuff that weren't signed, and I'm like getting in the line for the physicals, and one of the trainers is like, "Oh no, this is like for signed players only." I am a signed player. He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry."
Flipping out. They don't even know who the signed players are. That's shocking.
I would say, you know, like walking through the facilities, I was shocked. You know, coming from Kentucky, we have, you know, state of the art facilities and stuff, and then I go to the Dallas facilities, and I'm like, oh.
SEC money, SEC money.
But yeah, Dallas redid all their stuff now. It's amazing. But in my first year, I was like, ooh, this is kind of rough. I mean, there was like cockroaches walking around and stuff. I'm like, damn. Yeah.
Well,
Wow. What? Mate, that's the opposite of Kansas City, man. Fucking hell, we had like Kansas City's like the US hub, like the US soccer, like the national team hub. So like me walking, obviously, don't get me wrong, Marshall had amazing facilities, but walking into Kansas City's was like, wow, like I've arrived. Do you know what I mean? Like, so that's mad that you had that different experience walking into an MLS environment.
Yeah. I mean, the fields were still amazing. Everything was great. You know, all the staff and the players were amazing, and they, you know, they accepted me really quickly, and, you know, they gave me a lot of guidance. I mean, I would say the one thing for my time there is that, like, I kind of thought it would come to me, you know, the opportunities and stuff like that. And, but I mean, you have to work for it, and, you know, you can't look at yourself as like, all right, like, I'm just like a guy from college and I'm making reserve minimum, and, you know, the guy in front of me is making 600,000. There's nothing I can do. But once you kind of let your foot off the gas, you make it really for them to just, you know, sack you off basically. And, you know, I had opportunities. I played 12 games, and honestly, like, I was just very nervous because I was like, all right, like, this is your chance. Like, do something here. If you don't do something, then you're not gonna be on the team. Instead of looking at it as like, all right, like, if you do something, this can get you a better contract. This can get you this or that. I was more looking at like, don't fuck up instead of do something great, you know?
Would you say you had a little bit of like maybe imposter syndrome there, in that like you maybe didn't feel like you should have been there, and so like you was nervous about it, when in actuality, right, if a team signs you, they think you're good enough to be there, and so just go and play and enjoy your football. So did you feel a little bit of that?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I did. I mean, I came from, you know, Kentucky, where, you know, you're the guy, you know, you're the guy that they're looking for goals and assists, and, you know, the coach like, you know, wants to come and meet with you every other day for video and stuff like that. And then you get to FC Dallas, and, you know, the coach isn't meeting with you, or, you know, they're not saying, oh, you know, good job on that one play or whatever. And, you know, you kind of have to learn that you're not going to get that, you know, like, not immediately. At least you're going to have to, you know, show yourself and to get those opportunities. So, I mean, a lot of people that I talked to that, you know, they were at the MLS level, it didn't work out, and they go to USL, they're like, oh, you know, the coach was terrible, and, I didn't get opportunities and this and that. I mean, I would say like I did get opportunities. I just, didn't do enough with them. So, I mean, I own that. And, I've grown a lot as a player and as a person, going to Loudoun and now to Tulsa. So,
I like it. Lots of accountability there. Jam, would you say you felt similar when you went to SKC? Because obviously you was the guy at Marshall, and then you go over to SKC, which is a different environment. Do you have similar feelings to Kalil that you just described?
Yeah, literally, mate. I was just about to touch into it. Like, I never stepped foot on the pitch in the MLS, but certainly every day in training. Obviously, being around the MLS guys and being around the locker room every day, I think I got in my own head way more than I should have. I approached every training session like exact same as what Kalil was saying there. Like, I can't fuck up today, or like if I fuck up, then I'm gonna be down with the second team, or I'm gonna do whatever. And I've touched on it before. I was very lucky. Where I was with the first team. The majority of the time. Certainly, like on the Monday to Friday. However, I definitely wasn't playing the same natural game that I was maybe 6 to 12 months ago in a Marshall uniform. So, yeah, definitely it played a role. But at the same time, I agree with what Kalil said in terms of taking accountability for it, because, yeah, all right, it didn't go down the perfect pathway, right? Like, myself and Kalil aren't playing week in, week out in the MLS. However, I think it's stood us in good stead since then, because you learn from those experiences, right? And you realize that you take it as a learning experience, and you realize that, one bad training session or one bad game isn't going to be the end of your career. Like, there's always tomorrow, there's always the next game to make it better. So yeah, it's funny you say that, mate, because I had very similar experience at Kansas City.
yeah. And I think a lot of guys do, honestly, where, I mean, it is hard going from somewhere where, every guy that gets drafted, they're the guy at their team. And then they go to a completely new environment where, a lot of guys just get sent right down to the second team. And, you feel like you're already, 3 steps behind. And, you're coming into a team where everyone knows each other. Everyone's been there for years. They're making millions of dollars. So, I mean, there's a lot at play.
When I think about a lot of this stuff and I think about like young players, I always think about like someone like Rooney, who is like 15, 16, like he's throwing his weight around in training. He's basically already thinks he's the best player at Everton, goes to Man United at 18, thinks he's the best player there. And I'm not for one moment saying that any young player who goes into a new first team environment should think they're the best player. But when you have that confidence about you, it comes out on the pitch. It's very hard to play at the peak of your game when you're nervous and you're timid and like you're unsure about, should I pass here, should I dribble here? Well, if I dribble and I lose it, the gaffer's going to shout at me and then I might not play and he might drag me. Like, all those thoughts are going through your head when what's got you to that moment is just what you typically do if you had a defender in front of you, get it on your back foot and you dribble at him. And if you lose it, right? But if you've got the confidence that I'm going to dribble and you're probably going to beat him, you're probably going to beat him. And it's so mad that the psychology is there of, like, if you have the confidence, then good things usually come off. But when you're a bit timid and calculated, usually it doesn't really go to plan.
Exactly.
That was a lovely little reflection, actually. I think I needed that. I've I don't open up about it enough. So yeah, thanks, boys.
Little therapy session there.
Yeah, I feel a lot better, man. I'm going into Monday tomorrow feeling a lot better about myself.
There you go.
But anyway, I think that's a good time for us to sort of wrap up that portion of the show. And I'm going to pass over to Dom, where he's going to take Kalil El Medkhar through extra time on the Backstick podcast.
Kalil, welcome. Now, I'm going to take you for a segment that we had on the show since its inception called Extra Time. I'm your host with the most. They've been calling me on social media, Steve Harvey with a skin fade. Some of our British listeners have been calling me the Black Note Edmonds. So I'm just going to take you through 4 questions that we ask each and every guest. The first question is, Who is the best player you played with?
Oof, wow. Best player I played with. I would say maybe Brendan Aronson. He's
Baller.
at where's he at now?
Is he Leeds?
Leeds, yeah, Leeds, yeah.
Yeah, player.
Baller.
Yeah, I would say him. I would put like Ricardo Pepi up there too, just for like a natural finisher where just anything in the box, the guy is just a monster. But I would say Brendan Aronson just because I grew up with him in the academy, and he still is pretty tiny. He can use his body like decently now, but before he gets thrown around, but like all technical ability, and you always knew that he was going to go far. So I would say him.
Baller. All right. Who is the best player you've played against?
I would say this guy from Marshall University, Jameel Roberts. Oh, oh man, what's the guy from Seattle? Oh, what's his name? What's the guy on Seattle Sounders? I'm looking him up. Hold on. I'll give you another one. Oh, Tyler Adams.
Oof, player.
Yeah,
Baller.
play against him all the time when he was on the Red Bull Academy, and I remember there was one game where he started the game at center back, and then they moved him to midfield, and then they put him at the 9, and like I've never seen that before. In every position, he was just killing us. It was just like a different level. You're like, oh my god, this guy is miles ahead.
Yeah,
So
I've heard a few people talk about Tyler Adams being like, even from a young age, like a freak of an athlete.
Yeah, it's nasty. And then the other one was oh man, I forget the guy's name on Seattle, but the other one was Reynoso on Minnesota. I remember they subbed me in one time at outside back, and I was going up right against him. In like a minute of me subbing, and he was just like, "Oh my god, this guy's nasty." He hit me with like I don't even think he didn't even move the ball. He just like moved his body, just like, and it was such a small little feint, and it just sent me. It just like
Nightmares. He's having nightmares.
Are you on about, by the way, just
right,
at the start, were you on about Rui Diaz?
Yes, Rui Diaz.
Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah. They subbed me also at right back against him, and literally, or he didn't even start that game. He subbed in like right after me, and within 30 seconds of subbing in, he like chipped our keeper from like 20 yards out and just sealed the game. I was just like, oh my god, yeah, nah, he's nasty.
Baller. All right, so Reed Diaz, Tyler Adams. Moving on to the next question. If you could go on a night out with 3 teammates, past or present, who would they be and why?
God, wow.
Gonna upset some people here, I know, but it's okay.
This one's always
wow.
a big question.
Wow. Mine immediately went to just 3 guys from Kentucky. But there's some guys from Loudoun too. All right, I'll say JJ Williams. And if you're going to bring JJ, you have to bring Mabika too. And then I would say Lucas Bartlett. He's at DC United. That guy, he's a good time on a night out. I'll just say that.
Loves it.
Sick. Cool. And just to wrap us up, what would you say is your biggest achievement on the pitch so far?
I would say 2018, doing the regular season and then conference tournament champions, and then getting to the Elite Eight. Yeah, pro, I haven't really we haven't won anything. I mean, I don't really look at individual awards that much. I think achieving something as a team is much more important. So I would say that 2018 team.
Sick. The one that gave Jamil nightmares. Cool. All right. Well, that wraps up extra time. And on that, I'll pass it back to you, Jamil.
Yeah, cheers for that, mate. Nah, I think to be fair, mate, I like that you mentioned that obviously the winning something as a team is you put it above sort of individual achievements, because some lads come on here and they talk about debuts, and if I'm being honest, I thought you were going to say straight away, obviously making your debut for FC Dallas. But I'm glad that we kind of come full circle on it, because obviously I alluded to, that was in college by far and away the best team I played against. So, and you boys did. I mean, I think that you were unlucky to not even go further that year. So, it's ledge that you sort of circled back on that. But overall, Dom, I've really enjoyed this one, mate. I think it's been very, very insightful, to say the least. But like I said, I feel like 100%. It's been a bit of a therapy session for me. I feel like a weight's been lifted off my shoulders a little bit. So.
Good,
but anyway,
good. We love that.
That wraps us up, I think, for this episode of the Backstick. So it's about that time for myself and Dom to thank you if you've got this far. And if you've got this far, why haven't you subscribed yet? So head over to the page on the YouTube. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Amazon, wherever you listen, we're going to be there. At the Backstick Pod on all socials, so give us a follow. Go and we'll leave Kalil's social media information in the description here. So go and give Kalil a follow, and we hope you enjoyed this one, because I know that we did. So. From myself and Dom, Kalil, thanks ever so much for being here, mate. We've really enjoyed it.
Totally. Appreciate it, guys.
Yeah. And again, from the three of us, thanks ever so much for listening this far. And we will see you next week.
See you next time. Peace.
Yeah.